here. I am just here to introduce to you the Chief Creative Officer and Publisher of DC Comics, Mr. Jim Lee. Give him a huge
Excuse me?
Stunning! He's breathtaking.
Oh, stunning? Oh, stunning. That's an English word. I should know the meaning. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, oh, it means beautiful. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, sure. So I was standing out there. I couldn't hear what you were saying, but I could see she was getting you guys a little worked up, and I was saying, it's going to be very anticlimactic if she works you guys up. I like to go for the slow burn. We'll walk in, no expectations. Sure. Is that better? How about now? It's probably me. It's probably my fault. I'm speaking too loudly.
No, it's not.
Hello. What is?
Is that a little better?
It's all right.
Yeah.
They just want to see the drawing. All right. So I always have to ask, how many of you were here 2 years ago when I was? So what I like to do is I do a little Q&A, and while I
Try another mic.
is there
Another mic. It's a speaker.
Yeah. Did the person solve it? No. It's a little bit better, isn't it? Yeah, a little better. All right.
Karaoke night.
Karaoke night. If I could sing, I would definitely sing, but I have no musical ability. Yeah. So, how many of you guys are at the very first Comic-Con of your comic book experiences? Yeah. Nice. Okay. And have you been to a panel? Well, I guess you haven't. You've never been to a panel. Is this your first panel ever?
It's my first Jim Lee panel.
Oh, you're from Winnipeg. Okay. All right. So let me just introduce. You did introduce me, right?
I did.
Yeah. So I've been drawing comics for 33 years. It's been a long time. So I've done a lot of different types of panels, but this one I do pretty regularly, and I like it because it allows me to interact with you guys and kind of demo a little bit of what I do. I started out as an artist, but then as I learned more about the business, I'll start drawing while I talk. I started publishing my own comics in a company called Image Comics. Yeah, shout out Image Comics. Anyway, excuse me? That's right. Anyway, and then I just started doing retrospective panels and just kind of drawing panels, and I realized it was kind of a fun opportunity to kind of merge the two together. And then I don't know what I'm going to draw. And then I started streaming on Twitch. Twitch is just a website you can go to. You don't have to be a member or anything. Sounds so weird. And how many of you guys follow the Twitch stream on YouTube? Everyone else is missing out. So it's just a website that you go to, and it's a live streaming site, mostly for gamers.
Plug your channel.
Yeah, so I'll get there. And a guy like Ninja, you guys have heard of Ninja, right? Big Fortnite streamer, right? Has millions of followers, makes millions of dollars every month streaming. That's not me. So I've got like 40,000 followers, I think. But it's a very fun kind of way of spending a weekend afternoon in that people literally from all around the world will tune in and we'll talk art and I'll demo and draw at the same time. So it's very much like this panel, but it goes on for sometimes hours. I think the longest stream I had was like 6 hours. Yeah. So there's bathroom breaks and everything. You get to really see what my life is like, and it's Sadly, very tragic. No, so like I'll order Postmates, the food will arrive, I'll go pick up my Taco Bell, I'll eat it, on stream, and you can see how glamorous the life of a comic book artist is. That was part of my intent, is to kind of really pull back the veil and kind of show people what it's like to both draw, learn how, if you were to fly on the wall while someone was drawing, but then also learn a little more about the creative process. And on that 6-hour stream, which is on YouTube, all my streams I cross-post to YouTube after a day or two. It actually, it's a page from Accident 1000 written by Brian Bendis. I read the script out loud on screen. I start from a blank sheet of paper. It's about 6 hours. I finish like 5 or 6 in the morning. I start at 11 in the morning or something like that. And I just thought it was an interesting way, because there's really not a lot of that on it. This is a joke. Not a lot of that on it. And it was also a great way, I think. I also do, I've had people on stream mail me their penciled art, and then I would ink it on the stream, and then I mail it back to them. So I just like the idea of using technology in different ways to interact with the fans and readers. So that's kind of me, other than what Constance has already said. So if you guys have any questions you want to ask while I draw, we can talk about whatever we want.
But what's your channel called?
Oh, sorry, yeah. I'm also very forgetful. If you haven't noticed, sometimes I'll just go off on these long tangents and never get back to the real subject. It's twitch.tv/Jim Lee. Excuse me? Write it on paper. That's very old school, man. Like, hey, I'm gonna text it to you guys. Just Google Twitch Jim Lee. You should be able to find me. I'll put it at the bottom of this. And what I'm doing now is pretty much kind of what I do on stream, although it's in higher resolution, higher fidelity. And then would be like all of you guys shouting out whatever you wanted, anytime you wanted. That's kind of like, so you actually see the chat window, and you can see everyone that's in there basically talking about whatever they want to talk about. And so it can be chaotic at times, but it's often very entertaining. So, any of you guys have any questions?
I have one.
Excuse me?
I have one.
Yes, go ahead. Sarah, no, you just have to.
Hey Jim,
say it loudly.
I actually met you 20 years ago in New York Comic Con, and you still look the same.
You look exactly the same. 20 years ago, I was 12 years old. No, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was about 20 years ago, and you inspired me to read more comics. And my first comic I read that you ever wrote was actually Wildcats in Gen 13.
Right.
My question for you is, what were you thinking when you started to draw Wildcats? Did you think that it would turn to where you are now?
Yeah, so back then, let's see, I had just done my work on X-Men at Marvel, and we left, a bunch of us, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, myself, Eric Larson, Jim Valentino, Mark Silvestri, that's everyone, right? Yeah, and we all left, and we started our own comic book company. And I think, truthfully, if you look at the Wildcats, a lot of people critiqued it as saying it was too much like the X-Men, but I think we were all trying to kind of tap into the existing fan base that we had and try to deliver something that was somewhat familiar, because we honestly, there was no precedent of fans moving from one brand or one company to another just because of the talent. So I think we wanted to hedge our bets, but a lot of those characters I had created before I even broke into the business. Me and Brandon Choi, who co-created Wildcats, we lived very close to one another in St. Louis, Missouri. We would go to the same Korean church, and and instead of after I don't know, Bible studies or something, we would sit around and come up with comic book stories, obviously we would talk about the books that we love the best, which is like X-Men and things like that. But then we started creating our own characters, so characters like Maul and Spartan, who was originally called Fox at the time, a speedster. So a lot of the names we kind of repurposed, but a lot of the costumes that kind of existed, the mall especially. And yeah, so it was a mishmash of that and our desire, again, to give something that our fans who we were asking to leave Marvel and pick up another completely new company's books, trying to give them something that they could kind of understand and latch onto. Like we went and did romance comics, and it was all like 18th century French romance comics. Like, you know, we would have lost a lot of the fans, I think, right? So we wanted to kind of give something similar, but at the same time we couldn't go, hey, we're ripping off X-Men and Spider-Man, so you guys will come over. And I don't think we were. I mean, I think if you look at it, the concepts were, there were similarities, but they were different. But that was the intent. And then, you know, it just took off after that. So it's hard. I'll tell you that in general, though, it's hard for me to imagine exactly where any of this kind of leads. It's been an incredible journey, and a lot of the journey has really been about not knowing what's behind the next door or the next, you know, turn in the bend. And it's just been really exciting seeing how something I thought would be a really kind of, oh, hi. Oh,
Don't mind us, I'm just
oh yeah, sure. Something I thought would be a very solitary, lonely existence, drawing comic books in my room, you know, my bedroom, turned into something that really is such a huge part of pop culture, not just in North America, but, you know, all over the world. And it's been in this incredible transformation of society where you walk the streets and so many people are wearing superhero t-shirts or have superhero tattoos. And, you know, back when I was a kid, if you saw someone like that, you could walk up to them and say, hey, what's your favorite comic book? You could engage with them and they would instantly be part of that small group of comic book enthusiasts. But today, you know, they'll call the cops on you. You're like, who's this creep? Like, there'll be people with artwork that I've drawn, you know, and I'm hesitant to go up to them and say anything because more often than not, they'll be like, who the hell are you, right? So they know the characters and they know the brands, but they don't necessarily read comics. So it's been a really interesting journey.
Two questions.
Yes.
One, is there any character published from any of the publishing companies, whether it's DC, Marvel, you know, Dark Horse, that you have not drawn yet, that you would like an opportunity, you know, in the future to draw? Another question was, I was speaking with Finch, Fabok, and others. They said there's particular animals, characters that they dread and hate drawing.
Sure.
And is there something like that you just, you'll do it, but you really do not look forward to? Because I know they mentioned horses or
yeah,
hands.
sure. Right. Yes, that's a big question. So the first part, there are definitely characters I haven't drawn yet that I would like to, but just as important to me at this point in my career, life, whatever, I get that you guys, or most fans, glom onto the characters, but to me it's the people behind the characters, so the writers I want to work with. And I'd rather work with the writers on some random character than a character with a writer that's random, right? So I'm trying to line up the creators I want to work with the characters that I'd like to